What's going on, YouTube family, and happy Friday. Today we're going to be talking about how the used car market makes absolutely no sense. Everybody has officially lost their mind. Now, I've been in the automotive industry for over 20 years, and everything goes in cycles. In the early 2000s, we had the dot-com bubble. People were speculating, putting a bunch of money out. People were able to buy expensive cars. Banks were lending, money was out there, then it all fell apart. Same thing in 2008, banks were over-lending, prices of cars started to get crazy, everybody had money, and then it fell apart. And the same thing during the pandemic. Banks were lending, giving out money, cars went up in price, everybody's buying stuff they couldn't afford, and then it all fell apart. Now, there's one thing different in 2025 compared to the other cycles. It's the fact that consumers are still trying to buy overpriced vehicles. So in 2008, I had tons of people blowing me up asking me if I had any cheap, affordable cars. Because at that time, everybody lost their credit, they filed for bankruptcy, they lost their job, or they were just giving their cars back to the bank, and they wanted something cheap and affordable. And so that's what made me open up my dealership, because I had such a demand and I couldn't keep these cheap, affordable cars on there. Plus, at the time, the banks weren't lending, and so there was nobody else able to get them cars. Now, fast forward to 2025, it feels different. Like banks have really pulled back, but they're still over-lending to certain people, which makes no sense. Now, one of the things that I've been really preaching on this channel is how affordable cars are going to go up in value, and the demand for them is going to go through the roof as more and more people default. Now, to my surprise, the demand has not been as high as what I thought. Now, for the last year or two, I've been selling cars at a quite regular pace, but the last 8 months, it's slowed down dramatically because I feel banks are waiting for, everything to get better so they can start lending crazy again. And what I mean by this is I took about 10 to 15 cars to the auction that were good quality cars because I couldn't sell them. All these cars were 2020 and above. Low miles, under 60, 70,000 miles, clean title, good cars. One was a 2023 Nissan Sentra. I think it had somewhere around 18 or 20,000 miles, was at $15,995. I figured people would have been blowing me up because it's a cheap, affordable car, but it's newer, it's still under factory warranty, so I figured it would fly off the shelf. I had all those cars up for sale for 90 days. And on that Nissan Sentra, I only got 2 messages. I had 2 Chevy Malibus that were 2023s. Same thing. I didn't get a single message. The only one I got message on was a 2020 Kia Soul with like 18,000 miles. People were asking me if I did in-house financing or buy here, pay here. Even my cheap, affordable cash cars, stuff that I keep around that's $6,000 and below, because I know there's a lot of people that once they lose their credit, they have to file bankruptcy or whatever else, they're not going to be able to finance those cars. So I need to have cheap, affordable cash cars ready. Even my cheap cash cars, like I said, under $6,000, are not moving. People are literally reaching out to me and asking me if I would do buy here, pay here on a $3,000 car. That's how bad the state of the economy is. But to make things even worse is I bought a lot of other cars that are not nice, that are beat up, ugly luxury cars. And what if I were to tell you that all of those cars that I bought sold in less than 7 days? So I don't know if people lost their mind or what's going on, but I want to explain what currently happened this week. Now, I put up 7 high-end cars that were basically beat up. One was like a 2017 Mercedes S550, had 200,000 miles. I know one of them was a Lexus IS300 with over 200,000 miles. A Cadillac Escalade, newer one, I think it was like a 2018 or 19. That one had 180,000 miles, and the inside literally looked like a homeless gangbang. Like it was just dirty, disgusting. They were like living in it when they got repoed. And then one of the other ones that stuck out was an Infiniti QX56, went 160,000 miles, but the transmission was bad. Now, with the Mercedes, when I posted that car, I figured, okay, it's going to take a while to sell. I'm going to get a bunch of tire kickers. In 30 minutes, I had over 100 messages of people like, where is it at? I want to buy it. I want to come get it. So I pretty much told everybody it's as is, where is, how is, it's a repo. The price is the price. I'm not negotiating. Come down. And I had people literally fighting to get here. Now, the guy that actually made it here first was a younger guy, and he brought cash. And when he showed up, he literally handed me the money for the car. Didn't even look at the Mercedes. And I told him, hey, this car's, it's a high mileage car. Maintenance is very expensive on this car. It's going to cost a lot. Are you ready for that? And he's like, yeah, it's no problem. He's like, I maintain my car. So as we're sitting there talking, doing the paperwork, he informed me that the reason why he bought this is to do Postmates. And so I kind of scratched my head, and he's like, yeah, I do Postmates, Uber Eats, and I can't remember the other one. I think it's Grubhub. And that's all he does for a living. And I asked him, I was like, well, why are you buying the top end Mercedes with 200,000 miles to deliver food. I showed him I had a 2008 Hyundai Accent that only had, I think, 120,000 miles. It was cheap. It was only $2,500. Clean title, AC, perfectly sound. I was like, that car you could literally drive till it gets 200,000 miles and then just throw it away. And you can do your food deliveries with this, but then drive this on the side. And he said no. He wants to drive a Mercedes while he does food deliveries. And I'm like, okay, maybe he needs it because he's going to do Uber pickups, right? So I'm like, are you going to pick up people? Do you want to do Uber Black? He says, no, he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to drop off food. So he bought a 200,000 mile Mercedes, which was the most expensive car at the time, and just to deliver food. Made no sense to me. Did the paperwork. He took off. Now, the girl that bought the Lexus, this story was hilarious. She called, asked if it was for sale. I said yes. I gave her the information, told her it's got 200,000 miles. It's as is, where is, how is. It's a nice car, but you're going to have to do stuff to it. When she came down, she asked if I took in trades, and she had a 2018 Hyundai Elantra Coupe that was one of them with like leather navigation. So it was a really nice car, only 60,000 miles. And I asked her, I was like, why are you trading in a car with 60,000 miles that's really clean, that's nice, for a 200,000 mile Lexus? And so I guess her family gave her that when she went to school here for UNLV, and she's been driving it for the last 2 years, and she's sick of it, and she wants to upgrade. And I told her, I was like, you're not upgrading if you get a 200,000 mile Lexus. It looks cool, but, it's going to have more problems, more maintenance. And she did the typical thing that everybody does. Oh, it's Japanese. It'll last forever. No, they don't. So I kind of said, all right, I took her car in on trade and took it to the auction, but it blew my mind. She was happy. She drove away. Don't know why she wanted it, but that's what she wanted. Now, the guy that bought the Escalade, this one was pretty hilarious. He actually came down and was begging me to hold the car for him. He was going to get paid soon, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, look, first person with cash comes and gets it. So the guy actually came here and was having people bring him money. And make a long story short, this guy was borrowing from payday loan stores, pawn shops, borrowing from friends, whatever he could to get the money for this Escalade. And I asked him, I was like, is there a reason you're doing this? And he said, no, he just wanted to have a nice Escalade. Now it had the big ugly chrome wheels, it was your typical ghetto chariot. And I was like, look, this car is going to cost a lot of maintenance. It's going to, needs to be detailed because the inside looks awful. He didn't even care. All he wanted is he wanted a newer Escalade. And before we're even done with the paperwork, he's out there streaming on Facebook that he bought a new Escalade and, how he's flexing and stuff like this. And I'm just like laughing, thinking the whole time, like this thing's probably going to blow up on this guy and he's going to have nothing but issues. Now, just to give a disclaimer, there's a reason why a lot of us dealers don't want to sell like high mileage cars, which I'll go into here in a little bit. But that's one of the things I always tell people. I tell them exactly black and white. This is the problem with the car. This is the issue, and you're buying it as is. Now, the last guy was pretty hilarious as well. He picked up the Infiniti, which was, I believe, a 2018 QX56 with the bad tranny. Now, I put in the ad, transmission is bad. Recommend towing to whatever your facility. Same thing. I got 100 messages on that from Arizona, California, Utah, even in Texas. People are just blowing me up like, does it run and drive? Yes, it runs and drives, but there is no third and there's no reverse. You'll probably need to tow the car over and over again. Does it drive? Does it drive? Can it go 20 miles an hour? I'm like, yeah, it can go 20 miles an hour. Can it make it to Arizona? I'm like, you can make it to Arizona, but at 20 miles an hour, but it's a crapshoot because the tranny's going to go. Right? And I kept saying it over and over again, trying to be transparent, letting people know that the transmission's not good. And all they cared about was, can I put it in drive and drive it home? And I'm like, yeah, you can, And so the first guy that showed up, literally like the second that ad was posted, he was the third person that messaged me. He just happened to be in Vegas. He came down. He had his family, friends meet him, whatever else, got some money from them. And so as we're talking about the car, he's looking at it and he's asking about the transmission. And he's like, oh, well, the tranny's bad, right? And I'm like, yeah, there's no third gear and there's no reverse. The transmission itself, you can get it at LKQ for $3,000. So we're going over all this stuff. And I figured the way he was talking, maybe he's a mechanic or he flips cars. So when we started talking about it, I'm like, oh, are you a mechanic, or do you flip cars? Do you have somebody that's going to fix this for you? And he proceeded to tell me that, one, he's unemployed right now, that was all of his money that he used to buy this car because he always wanted the nice luxury SUV. And he wasn't sure on how to fix cars, but his goal was to just drive it around because he only takes the city streets to visit his friends and family and pick up his kids. And I kind of just sat there and looked at him. I'm like, so you bought a car with a bad transmission, with no job, no mechanical skills. why did you do this? And I showed him the Nissan that I actually still had there at the time. I'm like, I got a 2023 Nissan Sentra with like 20,000 miles. You can buy this today, drive it for 5 years, not have a single problem for the exact same price I'm selling you this Infiniti for. He didn't care. He wanted the Infiniti. All of those people over and over again kept telling me that they wanted that car. No matter how many times I told them I wouldn't do it, or you should probably look at another vehicle just to double check to make sure you're secure in your purchase. And once again, they all picked the luxury, name brand cars because they wanted to flex on either social media or feel better about themselves. Now, this goes back to what we first talked about, how dealers and even myself don't like to sell high mileage crap, because what happens is we tell them it's as is, where is, how is, and if they drive it around for a week, a month, a year, and it blows up, guess what happens? They come back crying, oh, the car's bad, you sold me a lemon. And it's like, you bought a 200,000 mile Mercedes. Of course it's a lemon. Why did you buy it? I told you don't buy it. I made all these people sign and big things as is, no warranty, maintenance is expensive, insurance is expensive. Even after making them sign that, they all took those cars. And that's why as dealers, don't like to sell these things, because we always get basically ridiculed. These are the same people that leave the stupid reviews. He sold me a lemon, he ripped me off. I'm telling you, we tell these idiots don't buy these cars, but they still do it anyways because they want to buy what they want to buy. And an even funnier story is the fact that, when they bought this, as we're going through the paperwork, they were all calling their insurance companies trying to add these cars, and none of them could afford it. It was just the girl that was able to afford it. Her insurance went up to like $200 something a month. So they're all freaking out, trying to like, man, how do I get money? How do I do this? And I'm like, look, when you finance a car, by law, you have to have insurance before you leave. But if you paid cash for it, it's on you. So, you can do whatever you want. If you want to drive it back, you want to tow it back, doesn't matter. As long as you pay for the car, I'm free and clear. And all four of those guys were super excited and decided to drive their cars back home with no insurance right after they paid cash for it. So this last week has been a real eye-opener because, like I said, I've been preaching that cheap, affordable, reliable economy cars are going to be gold to stay away from the high mileage crap and all the, bait cars, and just stick to good stuff because this is what people want. I was wrong. People have lost their minds. They still don't care. People would rather look good on social media and feel like they're driving a name brand car instead of having something dependable they can go to work or pick up their kids in. It just blows my mind. Every time I try to do something new to keep up with the auto market, because every dealer is chasing this constant changing climate where, if I buy cars for my dealership, I could drop $500 to $1 million, fill my lot full of cars, which I think are going to work good, and then the next week they're not. So I'm kind of glad I didn't find a big lot to go out and start buying cars for, because I would have bought a whole bunch of low mileage, nice cars for under 20 grand. But I guess that's not what people want. People want absolute dog shit. They want high mileage Mercedes. They want beat up Cadillacs. They want to flex as much as they can. So, I used to buy those cars. We call them bait cars. Cars that are really nice, that look clean, that have high miles or they have issues. I used to do that with Range Rovers all the time. They would always bring in people. Everybody wanted the Range Rover till they got the maintenance bill. And then they would come in for the Range Rover, and then we'd sell them in a Ford Explorer, Chevy Tahoe, something else, or maybe an Escalade or a Navigator. That's just what those cars are for. But now I feel like that's all that people want. Everybody wants a really, really nice car that they can't afford. So unfortunately, half these people watching this, and some of them I know do watch my channel, you're going to have a big problem in the next 6 to 8 months when that car starts giving you issues. And I'm begging you guys to hopefully trade that in to something nice or sell it to some other knucklehead so you can get out of it. But anyways, I wanted to share this sentiment because, nothing frustrates me more than not knowing where the car market's going, because every single week I go through meetings, I talk to banks, I look at the market, and we're constantly reevaluating which direction to go. But every time I have weeks like this where, good quality cars I have to take back to the auction because they're not selling and all the dog shit is flying off the shelf, it just makes no sense to me. I don't want to call every consumer out there an idiot, but I'd say about 80% of them are idiots. Still today, people are overpaying for cars. I have friends that are working at franchise stores that are still charging over MSRP on certain cars, and people are paying it. It makes no sense to me. Now, there's a saying in the dealership world, there's an ass for every seat, or, the only time you're not going to make money is when you run out of idiots, which America is full of them. So unfortunately, there's not enough down pressure to keep the market going down. We still have people willing to overspend. And as long as we have those idiots, it's still going to be harder for you guys to make deals, because every time a dealer walks back his pricing and thinks about restructuring, something like this happens where an idiot walks in the door, pays full retail, and renews their faith in idiots. And so they keep the prices high until, they go through a week or month or whatever else where there's no sales. And then all of a sudden, two more idiots show up and buy more cars and overpay. So unfortunately, the car market is making no sense. We have people still overpaying. We have banks that, even though they're hurting financially and did a lot of really bad lending, are still lending to people that don't really deserve it. So anyways, let me know in the comment section below how you feel.